For more on the impact of this legislation, I'm joined now by the co-founder and chair of Hong Kong Watch, Benedict Rogers. Good evening. Many thanks for joining us on Euronews tonight. Now, we are seeing the details of this security law that's been passed by China. Now, many Western countries, the EU and the US, have promised some sort of retaliation. But ultimately, do you think China is in any mood to step back?
Well, clearly, at the moment, no, they're not. I mean, they have been warned ever since they first proposed this law a month ago that there would be consequences. And they've not only produced the law, but produced the worst possible law, exceeding, I think, our worst fears with, as you said earlier, life sentence potentially. There's even an article in the law that makes it a criminal offence for non-Hong Kongers outside Hong Kong territory to commit any of these acts. So theoretically, my doing this interview with you from London is potentially under this law a criminal act. Now, obviously, I'm safe and I'm not worried about that for me. I'm worried about the people of Hong Kong. And the international community has to respond to this with real action to back up the rhetoric that it's given.
This is really of real concern. And if we look at the one country, two systems, is this the fatal blow to it?
Absolutely, it's the fatal blow. One country, two systems and Hong Kong's basic freedoms have been under increasing threat, have been steadily eroded for the last few years. And one of my regrets is that the international community didn't see the warning signs earlier and take stronger action at an earlier stage. And had they done so, maybe we wouldn't be where we are now. But today, with this law, there's no one country, two systems. It's one country, one system. And China is in flagrant violation of an international treaty, the Sino-British Joint Declaration.
And we're seeing Beijing that is more and more assertive. And I'd just like to come back to something you were just saying a moment ago, that this law, it seems, would allow Beijing to go after Hong Kong opposition activists who aren't actually in Hong Kong. Do you think Beijing would go that far?
I think yes and no. I mean, I think they have shown in the past that they're capable of going beyond China's borders. They've kidnapped a number of Chinese activists from places like Thailand and other places. Gui Minhai, who's in jail on a 10-year jail sentence now, was abducted from Thailand. So that is certainly a danger particularly for people, I think, who are in countries where they may be vulnerable. I think in Western countries, hopefully, our governments will better protect people. But we should be in no doubt about the lengths to which this regime will go to silence dissent well beyond its borders.
So that begs the question, do you think the UK needs to play a stronger role, given that its treaty that has now been broken? Absolutely.
I mean, I've been saying for some time that the UK should be taking a much stronger role. And certainly now it's not too late. I mean, it's too late in terms of stopping the law, but it's not too late to make sure that the Chinese regime pays a very high price for this, that we monitor intensely the effects of the law, that we do our best to speak out for those who are endangered by the law, and that we do our best to make sure this period of forthcoming repression doesn't last long. So I think Britain should be leading the international community in imposing targeted sanctions, not sanctions against the Chinese people or the Chinese country, but against officials in the Chinese regime and the Hong Kong government. We need to be preparing a lifeboat strategy to rescue those who may need to get out. I hope it doesn't come to that, but that may be necessary. And we should also be listening to calls that were made last week by the former head of human rights in the United Nations and by 50 serving UN rapporteurs and 8 former UN Special Rapporteurs for some kind of UN mechanism. So I advocate 3 paths: a punitive path of sanctions, a relief path of rescuing people who need to get out, and a diplomatic path.
OK, well, things taking a worrying turn. Many thanks for joining us, Benedict Rogers.